Hi, Jodie here. I just wanted to make a video. In a big part of that's prompted this is a response to Lord Adonis, who has said that he's written to Amanda Spielman about schools who aren't providing what he calls adequate online learning, i.e., lots of lessons online day to day, and so on and so on. And other parts of this video have been brewing for a while longer than that, but it's kind of prompted me to do it now and do it today because this started yesterday. And it's still going on today with kind of more comments about how he's going to find out individual schools that are not doing it, and so on. So I just want to take you back a few years and explain a bit of how we've got to this point anyway, pre-virus, and then how the impact of the virus has kind of accelerated, magnified the gaps really. So I first started doing Edtech, i.e. Working in any kind of online learning and platforms and things in 2006 when I was doing my PGCE. There were lots of people saying that they wanted the resources from lessons and things, like from the lectures and the workshops and so on, if they'd missed it. So I asked the lecturers if they could provide me with the PowerPoints and things either before or within a couple of days of their lecture, and I created an area, a portal area for the website, and used to put all the lessons and things in there from the tutors. So I started a kind of a portal just for the PGCE students, which carries on to this day, I understand, for the PGCE students at that university, at Greenwich University. So I started it in a kind of minuscule way just for our course, and then they've expanded that because it worked really well. Then I went into teaching in South East London, and I set up the learning platform as the pilot school for the Borough of Greenwich, which was Fronter at the time, VLE, and we had a lot of support from both LGFL, who are rolling it out as their kind of preferred platform, and also from the local authority, and we had the CLC at the time, the City Learning Centre, and they helped us a lot with it as well. And it was through that I was able to get the ideas and everything that led to me being able to roll it out and come up with a plan that worked. And it took at least 6 months to even get going at all, really, to get off the ground, to even get enough stuff on there for it to be useful. And then it took about 2 years to get to the point where staff were confident enough to all use it in some way or other. Whether that was the occasional quiz, whether it was online lesson stuff, whether it was flips learning, whether it was just sort of forums and things like that. So we were using it a variety of ways, and there was some flexibility. But it took about 2 years to all use it properly, and we were using it for our staff resources and everything. Now, I would be confident in that school that if the virus had hit, we would be pretty prepared for online learning. We could have gone pretty fast. And that was pre-2010. And that's why, because of my work with that, is why I won a number of awards, and then went on, and I've since 2012-ish onwards been working predominantly within EdTech to help EdTech companies to make sure that their products work for schools, because that was a big gap still. But 2010 onwards is where it starts getting interesting for every school, because we used to have the ring-fenced harnessing technology grant funding, and that was whipped away from 2011 after the new government came in, so since the Tories got into power. So that was taken away straight away. Gove took away Bector, which probably wasn't organisationally run particularly well, but that money that they had that helped to kind of do a lot of top-down strategy stuff and teach schools and CPD and online kind of resources and things was actually really good. I used a lot of them. So the resources they did were great, and all of that got taken away. So the funding went, the CPD went, the online strategy stuff went, everything around education technology for schools disappeared. Now, the problems for that over the last few years have been twofold. Firstly, schools have been focused in such other directions. I mean, Ofsted certainly haven't been focused on looking at digital for a long time because the government hasn't focused on that, and there's been so many other initiatives in that time, as there always is with teaching, that it's really taken people away from that focus. Schools don't have the ring fence money for tech anymore, so they're more likely to spend it on other things the smaller and smaller budgets get, with the kind of the real-time loss in budget. And then the CPD's been gone. There's no national hubs. There's no longer CLCs. All those got closed down as soon as the money was taken. Local authorities have been mostly kind of split up and their staff moved on. And then even where there's a local authority left, they're having to try and find funding in kind of increasingly creative ways. People are doing really well at it. I know the borough of Havering in London does very well with that. And then, sorry, my arm's shaking because I'm so wound up about it. And then you've got the fact that academies and free schools and all this kind of devolved nature of the education system as we have in the UK means that not everyone's got an LA and not everyone's working together as teams of schools anymore. We used to go to the CLC for ICT coordinator days where all the other ICT coordinators would join together and we would all talk about what's happening in our schools and we would all share ideas and we would share what we're doing. That's all gone in most places. So all of these things have had a knock-on effect. The other thing that's happening for EdTech companies, which is important, we need good EdTech. We need good EdTech coming in because we need schools to have things that are reliable and that are good and that are built well and that are new. You know, a lot of the stuff that people have trusted for years is just really outdated now. And there's new, fresh companies coming in, new startups, but there is no support for them. It's really hard to sell to schools when you can't go via local authority or you can't go via any national programme of any kind anymore because it's all autonomy. Autonomy is great, and autonomy is great in lots of things, but we're seeing now where autonomy is not great. There is no top-down solution that has been supported for all schools, and there hasn't been for a long time even before this. So we now have the Oak National Academy, we have the BBC Bite-Size Lessons for this time, and I think all of those are great. And I also know that there's loads of EdTechs providing free products and everything, and the DfE have put together a kind of a rough here's some good ones list. But none of this is helping EdTech companies. None of this, the fact there's no top-down anything, there's no way for a company to go, look, I think I've made something really good, can you help me? The government will say there's programs for that, but they're really difficult to get onto, and they're they're specific to the point that actually schools can't just have a look and pick and try. And then schools are worried about kind of just constantly being sold to. So if you were to start an EdTech company with the best product in the world right now, you would really struggle to even get it into 20 schools within a year. It's really difficult, whereas through the LA hubs, myself as an ICT coordinator could get support, and also an EdTech company can come in and, you know, have an audience of 40 to 60 to 70 ICT coordinators to show their product to. So it was easier for them to kind of find, you know, to get their way ahead and also to get feedback quickly. Whereas at the moment, they're just constantly plugging at schools and it's really hard. So it is not individual schools' fault at this point, is what I'm saying. There is a problem with EdTech in the UK. There are all these great ideas, there's all these great companies, but it's not getting to schools very well for all the reasons I mentioned. They don't have the time, they don't have the money, they don't have necessarily the expertise within the school to spot what's good and what's not, which means that when they do buy tech, they might then be let down or just not have enough training to realise they weren't let down by the products, but they just didn't kind of get it from their side, or they didn't roll it out properly. And that is absolutely no blame from me either. I know how hard it is to do. It takes a lot of strategy. It takes a lot of time. My head teacher gave me a lot of time out for class. In fact, I moved to working completely out of class to support teachers for 2 years, and it was the only way we got our technology to the point that we did. And schools just can't do that. There's no money for that. There's no incentive to do that. There's no pressure from anyone to do that because it's not been seen as a priority for 10 years. So to suddenly say that it should have been priority in the last 3 weeks, the horse has well and truly bolted on this one. It's too late and people are doing absolutely the best they can with what they've got. EdTech companies are trying their hardest to support schools, despite the fact they've got no money. They're having to use all their staff still to support schools, but they've got no money coming in because they're giving everything away for free in the most part. The ones that can't give anything for free because they just can't are finding that no one's interested because they're not for free. And the schools are absolutely doing their best, but they're trying to deal with well-being of children and families and vulnerable families, and dealing with systems where they're trying to get free school meal vouchers and they're spending hours and hours and every day just trying to do that to feed the families before anything else. And people haven't got laptops and people haven't got broadband. It's a mess, and it's not the teacher's fault. It was the teacher's fault 10, 12 years ago maybe, but not anymore. The time to get on board was 10 years ago, and the government absolutely wasn't interested. I would love to talk about how to turn this around. I would love for the Labour opposition to talk to the government about what's been happening for the last 10 years, because we're seeing now the impact of those gaps, and it needs fixing, but it cannot be fixed at an individual school level. If it could, it would have been fixed over the last 10 years, and it's not been. It's gone worse. So let's tackle this when we're back, when we're in a position to do that. For now, I think BBC and National Oak Academy and all the other edtechs giving free stuff are doing a fantastic job. I think parents are just trying their best with what they've got at home. And I think looking after and making sure that the most vulnerable children are looked after is the most important thing right now. Alongside catch-up programmes when they go back, government money to make sure tutoring's in place, everything else that's needed when we go back. And now is not the time to be having a go at teachers about technology. You've had 10 years to oppose what the government has been doing. So that's my 10 pence worth in 11 minutes. Sorry it was so long. Bye.